would like to start. So let's get cracking. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this late morning pre-lunch webinar, SAP Connectivity in Alteryx. We are with DVW today. Pleasure to do my first webinar in English for, I think it's been 8 years. So pardon me if I slip into international English or something a bit stranger. That could happen. I do apologize in advance, but it is my pleasure to host this event. We'll be together for just about an hour today, pre-lunch. So I hope you're all settled in and ready for an awesome demo and presentation. There'll be a bit of talking, but yeah, mostly we'll get to see a bit of DVW Analytics magic in Alteryx, and we'll get to that a bit later on. So my name is Martin Lee. The panel with me today, so two representatives from DVW Analytics. We have first off the W of DVW, Darren Walton, who is head of commercial. Hi, Darren.
Hiya. Good to be here.
Awesome to have you. And Ian James, who is account executive also with DVW Analytics. Hi, Ian. Awesome. We'll get back to you guys in a minute. So just a reminder of the agenda. So we're going to start off just with a quick intro. I'm going to talk a bit about Alteryx and Actinvision, just so you can position who we are in that space, and then we will quickly move on to Darren and Ian. Darren will first talk a bit about the company, DVW Analytics, and then we'll move over to Ian for a demo that will consist or constitute the bulk of today's session. Now, I did mention I would talk about logistics. Those of you who have been connected for a little while, you've noticed there is no camera, there is no microphone for the guests. This is for the very simple reason that it's difficult for us to manage who is speaking and when, etc., and it gets a bit complicated. So there are no microphones, cameras, or verbal interaction. However, if you do have questions, comments, feedback, anything you'd like to share with us or indeed with the rest of the audience, the chat feature is active. We get pop-ups and little notifications. I will be following that throughout the demo and the presentation. And if you have a question that is pertinent to what is being shown, I will field that question straight away. The point is to be interactive. If it's not, we do have time saved for questions at the end, and I will field those questions therefore in those last few minutes that we have at the end of the presentation before we break for lunch. And as Nina mentions in the chat, if you are a Francophile or Francophone, or I'm assuming any other language, depending on what your team setting is, you can activate subtitling. I've never done it. This is my first Teams webinar. So if it's your first Teams webinar, don't worry, we're all in this together. We'll make it work. I've done my High School Musical reference. I win a bet. We're all happy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, good on you. It's probably better that way. Anyway, I think enough spiel about logistics. Let's crack on. I'm going to do my screen share. Hopefully it works. There we go. Could you confirm, guys, that you see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. So let's talk a bit about Alteryx first and foremost. And the reason I want to do this is the key part of integrating a certain type of data into an analytics platform is to empower said users and the population using these solutions in order to achieve analytical goals. And it's really interesting to look at the history of Alteryx because that is really their reason for being and their philosophy, and they've gone through a lot of changes to get to this. For those of you who don't know the Alteryx history and story, originally the company was called SRC. It was a consultancy company delivering demographic-based mapping. They incorporated geographically organized US Census data. It allowed users to manipulate and analyze map data, so it was mostly in the geographical space. They also develop software that would then allow customers to do customer segmentation analysis, and all of this was back in the late 90s, 97, 98. And very quickly it became apparent that the features that allowed them to do that analysis, or those analyses, were just as interesting to their customers as the end result. You know, what's the path? What's the journey to get to that end result? Because ultimately customers don't just have those needs. They have a variety of analytical needs, and the business analyst will ask a number of questions in a number of different fields depending on the flavor of the day. And unifying therefore what they had already done with spatial analytics with the non-spatial side of things, and then bringing these components to the forefront of what they were doing, well, that resulted in the creation of a new software called Alteryx. and this product I think was launched in 2006, around about then. And one thing led to another. That became the company's name in 2010, and we have ended up with a very broad and powerful platform that allows any business analyst or data analyst to essentially answer any need or any question that they have in that space. And the platform is really end-to-end for that kind of user. I mean, today we speak a lot about the citizen data scientist, for example. And Alteryx has really sought to cater to these different types of populations, but also taking into account what happens when you start deploying to a larger number of users in an organization, and how will they then be able to encompass that in a corporate strategy and ultimately become more data driven. So you see a large number of components. I do apologize, my visual is in French, but I'll try and translate. Everything from data prep, blending, profiling, etc. So all of the backend stuff that you can have, bringing in different kinds of data, be they database flat file, XML. It could be mapping data, which is the legacy, obviously. But then all the enrichment part. I mentioned citizen data science. There's also data science with machine learning, predictive analytics. It can be low code, no code, or it can be really hands-on. It depends on where you want to go. You can really reach into a quite in-depth view of artificial intelligence with Alteryx and the different components of the platform. And then all of that will feed into an output, an end result, which could be the final result in visualization. So if you work with data visualization software, this is something you'll know. It could also just be to repopulate another database, which will then be used for something else. Ultimately, it fits into a number of business processes. And this platform is ever growing, ever more connected. If you work with it already, you may know about Connect, Promote, for data cataloging, for more advanced analytics and data science. There are a whole bunch of features in terms of the types of data that you can connect to, and things are evolving also with third parties, and that is where SAP and DVW Analytics will come into it. In a moment, we'll get back to you guys in a second. Just to position what all this means for Alteryx and where Alteryx is today, where the company stands. So this is projected data for the end of the year. The projection is over 8,400 customers worldwide, with 43% of the market in the global 2,000 companies. Expected revenue is going to be up 45% year over year to $770 million. The community, and I will talk a bit about community as well in a bit, which is really important for user engagement. Over 300,000 members there, so it's a very active place. So if you're looking to seek help from other experts in other industries and other fields, really good place to go. Over 25 years of experience. I mentioned they started the company 25 years ago, in 1997, as SRC. So they have all of that legacy to empower everything that they're pushing forward today, and close to 3,000 employees worldwide. Again, it is a platform that seeks to answer the needs of the modern data analyst, but in an organizational environment where you maybe want to industrialize, proliferate in different parts of the organization, business units, etc. It will cater for all of that in the analytical space, and that is why this big platform is in place. Where Actinvision fits into this and what our role is to encompass Alteryx in an environment and in a data initiative for our joint customers, which is not necessarily by default Alteryx exclusive. Now, what this means is we essentially focus on what we call the 3 U's of a data project. For it to be successful, a data project should always be useful, the right data with the right format for the right people. It should be usable, an interface essentially that users can easily engage with, right? It doesn't turn them off or turn them away, and it facilitates data exploration. And probably the one that's most often forgotten is it is actually used, that users really actually want to work with the platform that you've created for them day in, day out. This is where community comes in. So we have constructed this offering of services, again, apologies for it being in French, where we work with the basis architecture, which can be solutions, can be hardware, it can be everything around server management, etc., up to content, which you develop on the basis of the architecture that you put in place, the skill sets that you need to develop with your teams on top of that to enable the best content to be created, and finally the community to federate everything that's going on with your user base and different populations that you have within the organization, the rules of which are defined naturally with governance. So we look to put into place all the pieces that need to be fit in to a project, to an initiative, to a program around data, with a view to becoming data-driven with these 5 areas. The other thing that I'd like to mention is that not every person, not every profile within an organization will have the same input, the same stakes, and the same needs. And so we also look at it from a population perspective. Project leader or a project manager or stakeholder, that's one population. The users, that's another population. IT or the technical people who are in charge of implementing, installing, and managing software and hardware, that's also another population. And our goal is to unleash the data potential of an organization, federating these 3 groups of people within those 5 areas of expertise that I just mentioned. Now, what does that entail? We are today over 70 people, both based in Strasbourg, Paris, and Lyon. We work for over 500 customers. And the key second point I'd also like to mention here is that beyond what we do from a methodological or methodical and project-oriented aspect, we also work with other solutions, both as partners or as skills, which allow us to fit Alteryx into the overall puzzle. So Alteryx as a platform is very broad and answers a number of needs. But for example, if you have the need to industrialize how you're bringing data into your platform, then maybe you want to do a Talend or a Matillion project that will potentially fit into Snowflake or Azure for data storage with Microsoft. And then maybe you have a specific specialized data visualization tool such as Tableau or Power BI. We will help you organize all of that and make sense of it all to produce the end result that is the most efficient and optimized for your particular need. Now, we don't limit all that we do to those 6 partners. Alteryx obviously is one of them. We do have skill sets beyond that, for example, Google Cloud Platform and their different solutions. We do also advanced data science in other aspects. And also we do quite a lot with SAP data, a lot of business objects as well. And I think it's important to mention that given the topic of the day. The team is multilingual. I do happen to be the token Brit of the company, but a lot of other people do speak other languages. So if you have an international data project, well, you're more than welcome to ask, and we'd be more than happy to help. Okay, that's enough about us. That's enough about just Alteryx. Let's get into the topic of the day: how to connect SAP data to the Alteryx platform. And I'm going to hand it over to Darren of DVW.
Thank you indeed, Martin. Right, hi guys. Let me just share my screen and let's see if we can get this show on the road. Hopefully you can see my front page. Yep, I'll see you. Perfect, thank you. Right, so you'll hear 2 voices from our side today, my, Darren, and also Ian. I'll run through a few slides. I'll just give you some orientation as to the work we do, how our products work within Alteryx and how they support SAP. And then Ian will do some demos, and I'll do a few more slides and demos and so on and so forth. So we'll flip-flop a little bit between each other over the next 30 minutes or so. Key thing I want to get across to you guys is that you're in safe hands. We've been working with Alteryx now for many years. We've been an Alteryx technology partner for about 6 years, and we currently stand at over 300 global customers. And some of these names you'll recognize, some less so. The one thing they all have in common, actually 2 things all have in common. Number 1 is they all run Alteryx. Number 2, they all run SAP across their businesses. Okay, so our software and the way that our software works within Alteryx and the use cases that can be delivered using our software within Alteryx, they're limited. They really are unlimited. Okay, so it doesn't matter what domain, what job function, what job role, what department. If you use SAP data at all within your analytics processes, then we have a case and an option for you. All right, so high level, SAP is a big beast. There are many hundreds of products that bear the SAP label. We support the majority of those through our product suite. This slide here is just really a a summary slide of the core SAP systems, or if we say the most important SAP systems that we support within the Alteryx environments. And these range from the core transactional SAP systems. And if you know your SAP, you may be familiar with phrases such as R3, very, very old school, SAP ECC, where the majority of SAP customers sit today, right through to the latest iteration, SAP S/4HANA, the core transactional systems, the lifeblood of most businesses that run SAP, and where the majority of data resides. We fully support access to those different systems. In the data warehousing side, if we're talking about SAP, we fully support all the different flavors of SAP BW as well, right? If you still have the SAP Business Suite applications running within your organizations, on-prem, CRM, SRM, SCM, etc., again, we fully support those products, along with all the various industry solutions that are provided by SAP. And over the years, SAP has moved more into the cloud and have acquired a lot of companies as well along the way. So we support business objects, universities, Webby reports, these types of things. We provide full support for the customer experience solutions, which are all cloud-based these days. And also we work with SuccessFactors in the HR space and integrated business planning, or IBP, up in the planning space. Again, this slide is just a snapshot, very much a partial list of the products that we support, that we've identified here what we think are the most important for most SAP customers. All right, so let's start drilling down, peeling the layers off the onion. Analytics process automation is an idea that Alteryx introduced a couple of years now, and it takes very much an end-to-end view of an analytics journey. And if we're going to perform analytics process automation, it means that we require, DVW must provide certain capabilities to our customers. Capability one is the ability to pull data, extract data, read data from a very wide range of SAP systems and objects within those SAP systems. And I'll run through a couple of highlights in here in just a second. But also very importantly, for an increasing number of our customers, is the ability not only to read data from this wide range of SAP systems and objects, but also to be able to write data back into this wide range of SAP systems as well. So end-to-end, we support both the read and write of data from and to SAP products. On the left-hand side, pick out a couple of highlights, and I'll let Ian do some demos for these for you. But the two big ones would be, number one, the ability to pull data from SAP tables. And when we talk about tables here, I should emphasize that as a paradigm, DVW, we never hit the underlying SAP database directly. It's something we simply don't do, right? So we don't care whether your database is HANA, whether it's Oracle, DB, whatever, DB2, whatever, right? We are totally agnostic from a database perspective because we always interact with the SAP system via the application layer. And because we integrate with SAP via the application layer, it means that all the governance and controls built into your systems are automatically respected by our software. What does this mean? At the base level, this means as a user, I can only access the data and objects I'm authorized to access within that SAP system. That's key. The second aspect means we respect the safety belts that are defined within your SAP systems. What does this mean? It means that we can do no harm to the SAP system. And if we didn't meet these two criteria, frankly, we would have zero customers. We wouldn't have sold any software, okay? So rest assured, our product is very, very safe and totally respects those governance and controls. So tables anyway, let's think about tables. Tables are great. They give us the finest level of granularity available in any SAP system, right? Within Alteryx, it opens up lots of possibilities for users who are comfortable with working with tables and building these workflows, okay? The complete opposite of this, actually, is the next one on the list is our T-codes or report capability. So when I execute work within an SAP system, maybe via SAP GUI, or maybe via a portal or Fiori screen, I run T-codes, transactions, reports to get a certain type of output from the SAP system. The beauty here is that if we can tap into those T-codes and reports, then we can allow our users to automatically consume the business logic within those T-codes and reports. So I just need to know what report do I want to run within Alteryx to extract the data I need. I don't have to worry about how the tables interlock, any other business logic. We consume that completely. Over and above that, then we have a range of different objects we work with. It could be BW, so queries, query views, info providers, etc. If you are running SAP S/4HANA, we support the full range of different SAP S/4HANA views, again via the application layer, never directly to the database itself. On the right-hand side of the diagram, we support objects such as BAPIs, IDOCs, and OData. So these are very well-established mechanisms that allow us to write data back into SAP systems. And this read and write capability opens up some incredibly interesting possibilities for our customers. If you think about a certain case of SAP, financial reporting here is just an example, okay? At the very bottom of the diagram here, we have the key SAP systems which may be used in a finance aspect. Above those systems, there are different components, or what we used to call modules, within those SAP systems, right? Segment reporting, tax reporting, treasury, and so on and so forth. But each of those modules provides or works and operates with data within a different range of objects, the tables, the T codes, and so on and so forth. So what we're just trying to get across here is that it doesn't matter whether we're talking about finance, sales and distribution, procurement, human resources, it's all a one for us, okay? We provide at the top level here these tools or mechanisms for you to access that data as long as you're authorized to access it within the SAP system. Now, if we're looking at concepts such as analytic process automation, all the value comes through the automation process of it. And through automation, we use Alteryx Server. And our product is fully compliant with Alteryx Server, both from an extraction perspective, pulling data from SAP via a workflow scheduled via Alteryx Server, which opens up obviously some very interesting reporting possibilities, but also the ability through Server to automate the updates, creation, write of data into SAP systems. And this opens up interesting possibilities around pure process automation, as well as larger topics, perhaps like data migration. Okay. Right, now we're going to try to do a nice hand over to Ian. Ian, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. That's a good start. And hopefully very soon you'll be able to see my screen.
Awesome, yeah. And if there are any questions during the demo, again, please put them in the chat and I will field them to Ian as he goes along.
Fantastic. Okay, so thanks for that, Darren. So just to, as Darren mentioned, I'll be chipping in with a few demos here and there just to flavor the words and to break it up a little, hopefully. Give you some practical view of how this thing works. Many of you will be familiar with the Alteryx Designer. This is it here. It's basically a canvas, if you like, where you can pull in multiple tools and join and build workflows to process your data to do all that good work that Darren's been talking about. On the right-hand top side here, you've got these toolbars, if you like, or they call them palettes in Alteryx speak. There are, I think, well over 200, 300 different tools to manage your data in all the ways that have been mentioned already. When you use our plugin from DVW, then you get extra toolbars. So the first one here, read tools. Basically, you'll learn that we're not very good at naming things. They just basically do what they say. So it's the read tools. So guess what they do? Whole range of those. We'll take a couple of those shortly, but write tools, obviously, Darren mentioned that. We have tools for cloud solutions and all the systems that were mentioned there. Planning within SAP, even little robots. So RPA tools that actually work within Alteryx. So that's quite a unique thing. So they can do SAP scripting, for instance, within an Alteryx workflow. But let's go back to the read tools. You can see I've already got a workflow on my canvas here. Basically, this is the simplest of simples. Okay, so this is a scenario where we want to find some exceptions in terms of purchase orders. The table for that in SAP, or one of the tables, is EKPO, and we've used our table tool here to bring through the details of that table. And you can see all the columns here, and the user basically can look for any table within SAP, bring back its metadata, can select exactly which output they want. So they can be very selective in terms of which fields. We don't have to have every field. You can see that you've got the ability, if you're more technical, to look at the technical names or the descriptions. Once you've done that, you can also then filter. So you can filter on absolutely anything. If I just flick across my filters tab, you can see I'm looking for when a value is over 2000. or a date is between these. These can be very flexible. We can therefore choose exactly the data we're looking for, which is great. And therefore we're not having to do what you might have to do in Excel, extract everything from that table and then start to process. So it makes it really efficient. One thing I want to show you here is what Darren just mentioned there, the integration with Server. So what we have here is we built what's called an analytical app, because what we've done is we're asking our users, we're building an app, we're asking our users for an input. And in this case, it's for those three values, for the value of the or the target value for the POs, and then the date range. Okay, and we can very simply build that in, and our tools are all built to chat happily with and work seamlessly with the Alteryx tools. Really easy then. As a designer, I've created this. I can test it here, but I'll show you over in the server. To publish to server, we just basically save over to our Alteryx server. No problem at all. And if I flick across, what's great is we can then see and manage all these applications, these workflows. We can run them. So here's the one I'd made earlier. So if I click on it, I can run it. But also I can share this to other users. Other users can run this and run this themselves and maybe, I don't know, change the schedule, also the threshold, should I say, obviously change the dates, and then they can run that workflow. And it doesn't have to be me, it could be anybody. Don't worry about sorry.
Yeah, we just have a question while we're waiting for the job to run from Gottfried, who's asking, is the server setup a prerequisite? Is it a requirement, or could you use these tools directly in Designer and in Designer only?
Right, yeah, really good question. Yeah, you can run these tools just in Designer. Obviously, in terms of where you get the benefits from using Server, however, if you choose to go there, is that you get all the collaboration possibilities like we've just seen, but also the possibility to automate. So we can schedule these workflows. You can see now that it's run, for instance. So me as a user, not the designer of the workflow, can run this. Note that we can also check that your SAP authorizations are correct and that you have access to this data. If that's what you want to do, we can set this up in various ways. But you can see now that we get our output straight into here. So the user themselves needs to know nothing about SAP. They just need the access and the ability to run an application within the server. Okay.
So another question regarding the configuration of the query. Can you do joins in the query itself to enable filtering on the referential data? Or do you need to download all the tables, do joins in Alteryx?
Another great question. Gottfried. Yeah, two good questions. Well done, Gottfried. Yeah, so both are possible. You can do that on the database side. In certain circumstances, that will be more efficient. But what you can do is do it within the workflow itself, which is probably where most of our users set up that sort of referential and joins of tables. You can. What's nice about our tools is, and I'll show you a little bit of this later, is that we can pick exactly, say we've got a header segment table relationship. We can pick exactly the records we want from a header, and we can feed those as a filter into the segment table. So we're only pulling the data that we want. So effectively, we're doing a very efficient join, but on the Alteryx side. The benefit of doing that, of course, is it doesn't stress out your SAP system or your IT team. So it's a great thing that great flexibility that we have. All is possible.
Okay, so in summary, both can be done, but you do see more cases of being done in Alteryx.
Absolutely, yeah. It tends to be more in Alteryx at the moment. Yeah, that's true.
Awesome.
And then finally, just to finish off, hey, what's great about the server, yes, you can collaborate, but also you can use this as an automation tool. So just going back to what Darren mentioned, we can schedule our workflows. So if we just want this workflow to run, find those PO exceptions every day, we can run it overnight and even use Alteryx to email out a message to say, hey, we've got some exceptions, go check them out. Back to Darren.
Thanks, Ian. Okay, let me share my screen again. Yeah, and just to emphasize the points made earlier, a good number of our customers or users only ever use our product with Alteryx Designer. This is really only when the case for server. comes into play, either for exposing workflows to a larger community or for automation. Does server really come into play? But where it's used, it becomes incredibly powerful. This slide here is really just intended to do a couple things. One is to highlight what we see as the opportunity for our customers using Alteryx and DVW. It's not just about analytics. Now, analytics is very powerful. It's the main reason we started doing this with Alteryx some years ago. But as the Alteryx platform has evolved, our own product set has evolved, then a lot more possibilities become open to us. So we see these kind of three interlocking circles here. A lot of overlap, obviously, between these different domains. Number one, analytics, pulling data from this wide range of SAP sources and systems into Alteryx, using the capabilities of Alteryx, either as the endpoint for the analysis, or as what we see with a lot of our customers, that data has then been pushed up into one of the visualization platforms, Tableau, Power BI, and so on and so forth. Process automation for us is where data is being written back into SAP in some capacity, and through either our BAPI tools, our IDOC tools, or even our RPA tools around GUI in particular, the ability to update data in SAP as a result of the analysis performed within an Alteryx workflow is really quite powerful. So it could be that we're doing analysis of our pricing record data within SAP, from SAP within Alteryx, and realizing that, based upon an analysis of the data, that we should be applying maybe different prices, more discounts. From an Alteryx workflow, we can actually go run the workflow, do the analysis, and update maybe those pricing condition records within your SAP target system. Alternatively, a use case may be around maybe extending or changing material master data, perhaps through Alteryx, more of a data cleansing type of process. So the process automation angle is becoming increasingly popular and very, very powerful. And none of these, by the way, are mutually exclusive. All right, they all work hand in hand. And then the final one here, and I think it's most relevant today, particularly where SAP customers are with the transition potentially to from SAP ECC to SAP S/4HANA, is that through Alteryx and DVW, you can save a massive amount of time, effort, and reduce risk through using Alteryx as the platform for your data migration processes. Yeah, no code needs to be written. We have workflows that are fairly much self-documenting. You see exactly how data has been transformed through a process. It makes it easier for the business sponsors or business users to sign off that the migration has been successful, but also to reconcile whether the data migration between different systems has been successful or not. So there's a big play here, big opportunity across the piece. So if we look at analytics, I'm sure Ian will come to show us shortly, the ability for us to consume transaction code data. The T codes are fine in SAP. They do their job. They present data to you on the screen. You can drill down and so on and so forth. But the output you get from a transaction code within the SAP system isn't necessarily conducive to downstream analytics immediately. So with DVW software, we can automatically do this for you. You just need to know what's T code I want to work with, what's the variant maybe I want to use when I run that T code, and we can make it very easy for you to access and consume that data without doing lots of manual downloads and spreadsheets, cleansing the data before uploading into Alteryx. This opens up our tool set to a lot of line of business users, people who just know there's one or two reports or T codes they need to run into Alteryx to get the data they need to perform their jobs. Okay, so T codes is key. Then we look at tables, analytics, and comes back to a little bit to the question we had earlier, right? However, on the left-hand side of the slide here, we have a financial posting within the SAP system, right? These transactions compose data stored in multiple different tables, classically a header and one or more item level tables. Now, if we could bring this data together very cleanly within Alteryx, we can effectively reconstruct, in this scenario here, those posting documents within Alteryx, right? And have to give the user a lot of control and power over how they extract and what fields they utilize within that extract. So Ian, back to you.
Thank you. So as Darren said, we're going to show you how those T codes work. So these are obviously used quite a lot by a huge number of our users because they're from the business side, don't necessarily have great in-depth SAP solution knowledge, but they do know what they do in SAP, which is run that T code. Okay, so here's how it works. I'm going to build it from scratch, so cross your fingers for me. Here we go. So we always start one of our workflows with a logon tool. Does what it says, as I mentioned before. You can see that I've got many systems here. I'm going to use my ECC system if I can find it. It's retained my password. This is my username and password for SAP, but we can use single sign-on in order to log on. So just be aware of that. And I can even check that my connectivity to the system is available. So all is good. We're connected well. By the way, the parameters you see at the bottom here are very similar to your SAP GUI. So they're the type of parameters you would see over there, if you're familiar with that. Don't worry if you're not, you don't need SAP GUI to run this software. The tool that we use is our report tool to run SAP T-codes and reports, as the name suggests. So we bring it in, it connects, and it effectively passes those credentials into that tool, ready to connect and run the T-code. We just enter the T-code. I'm going to use a finance T-code, FBL3N. And when I search, it's going to talk to my SAP system, check that that's a real T-code, that there's a value behind there, that there's a program. As you can see, there is. It's recognized that. And when I select that program and confirm, then what it's going to do is bring back the parameter screen. And this is what you would see if you went into SAP. You would see this parameter screen to add a company code maybe, or a GL account, some dates, even a layout you can choose here. That's worth noting. So that's great. All of that is good. But also, if we click on the variants here, these are the variants, i.e. the set parameters that have been saved within the SAP system, and we can pick one of those. So in a good old, here's one I've made earlier. We're going to use variants. We can now quickly run that T-code with those particular parameters. So what I'm doing now is running that T-code, and I see here exactly what I would see in the SAP GUI. Okay, this is exactly what we see. This is exactly the output. And as Darren mentioned before, this is great. This is an endpoint in the SAP GUI, but it's not great for analytics. Our tools, though, and this is the magic that was mentioned before as well, are able to take this data and cleanse it, make it usable downstream. For instance, you can see that we've got for each GL and company code a little table. In fact, that's repeated again and again and again. Okay. So what would be nice is, hey, let's pick up. This is a header row for our table. We also see that we've got some header items. Be good if they were inside the table. We can do that too. So we can process these header fields, and as we click, it's collating our configuration. You can see already that it's intelligent enough to say, hey, if it's a blank or dashes, just ignore that. That's why they're in gray. But we can also ignore other rows. So these totals, for instance, aren't good for analytics. We can do that later, of course, downstream in Alteryx. So you can see I've ignored this row, and it said, look, where there's an asterisk in the fourth character, just ignore it. Don't worry if that's not perfect. We can change that. We can manage that very easily within the screen. But if we now raw preview again, you can see it starts to color code exactly what's going to happen here. Anything in gray is going to be ignored. The blues and greens are those header rows that are going to be brought in. The white is the data. It's done it for my first little mini table here, but it's done it again and again everywhere it sees that pattern. So we don't have to do it multiple times, just the once will do. If I confirm my layout, you can see how that data is going to look as it comes out. It's in a nice tabular form now. It's been parsed. You can see the GL and company code are part of the data. And of course, all the things we want to ignore have gone. We can even go further now. We can say, look, hey, look, this field here is blank. So there's the field ST. Just ignore it. We can change lengths. We can change data types. But let's just put a browse tool on the end of there. That's a visualization tool in Alteryx. And we can now run that T-code. We've connected to the SAP system, used our SAP logon, run the T-code with the variant, and done all that work to cleanse the data. And there it is, nice and clean and ready to use downstream in Alteryx.
So there's a question, again, sorry, I just took advantage of the slight pause.
Yeah.
So regarding what you retrieve data-wise, questions about the names of the fields. Can we retrieve them in plain English with DVW to help mapping from technical names, for example? Maybe also get the description of the fields in the tables.
Yeah, certainly in the tables, as we saw, there was the technical name and the description. You can see that the output from the T code is exactly as you would see it within Alteryx. Sorry, excuse me, within SAP. And also in terms of the parameterization, I just get to the right place, you can see that you get both the technical name and the description here. Of course, these are in English, but if your logon is usually in French or German, whatever, it will translate and use the appropriate SAP where that SAP translation exists. We can't invent it, unfortunately. Not yet.
Sure. There we go. Maybe feature to be
Yeah,
developed.
a feature to be noted. Yeah.
There we go. It will be called the translation tool, since it will do what it says on the tin.
Indeed. Yeah. That's all we ever do. Yeah, exactly. Keep it simple.
It's all good. Cheers, Ian. You can carry on. Thank you.
No problem. So what I wanted to do next was just show you how flexible we can be and how integrated we can be within Alteryx. All of our tools have this little anchor here. It's an S anchor for selection. And what it allows us to do is dynamically feed in our filters from an external source. It could be downstream or upstream, should I say, in the Alteryx workflow. It can be from an SAP table or another system, okay, or even just a flat file. Let me show you how that works very quickly. I'm going to copy across my my variant into here. Okay, so you can now see I'm using a manual setup. So there's no reason I can't even run my T code like this. Okay, so I could change it here. That's how flexible already I am. Yeah, we don't need to worry about that. But even better, if we right click, we can copy those headers and values and create just a little text tool. Okay, it doesn't have to be a text tool. It could be anything that comes in this format. Okay, I'm just going to change this to true. I'll tell you why just shortly. But you can see if you know your SAP, BUKRS is company code equals 1000. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to copy it 3 times here, but it could be 53 times, of course, for each of my company codes. And now, instead of running this for one company code, I can pass this list in, and it will dynamically filter using the special dynamic filtering 3 times for each of those 3 company codes. Let me run it, and I'll explain what's happening. So it's running for 1000, 2000, 3000. Remember, I changed to true. What the true does is it runs the T code 3 separate times, as opposed to running it once for all 3. Of course, that makes it more efficient, especially when there's big data outputs. Okay, you can see it's run 3 times, filter 1, 2, and 3. And here's the output. And if we scroll down, you can see now we've got company code 1000, and it combines all the data together. There's 2000 I just whizzed by, and 3000 further down. So we can really control exactly the data we bring out. And going back to the server viewpoint, there's no reason it could be a flat file of just a list of company codes, but it could also be a formula tool to calculate today's date or what was last period. And so you can then publish this to the server, and it will run and update the date or the period automatically. Fantastic. That's me. Back to Darren.
Thanks, Ian. Okay, great. So what we saw there then was an example of our report tool being used to extract data from SAP transaction codes. And so our business users absolutely love it. Our users in finance, tax, audit in particular love our SAP table data capability. It's not to say it's not loved elsewhere, but the guys who work in those particular functions particularly like the ability to really control down at the table level, the data that they're extracting within an Alteryx workflow. And here, this slide here showing is one of our templated workflows. We provide many of these, 70 odd now up on the Alteryx community gallery as a starting point for our customers. Templated workflow that's allowing us to extract the general ledger accounting data from an SAP system. And here we're using a mechanism whereby we're extracting the data we want at the header level, okay, and then using the output from that particular extract to control what we extract from the item level, just to refer to a question that was asked a little bit earlier. So SAP table data, really, really powerful capability. Then, of course, we have SAP BW, our queries, our query views, our info providers. And when we first started working with Alteryx all those years ago, the SAP BW capability was the number one thing our customers wanted and needed. Today, they use more of the table or the T-code kind of capability, but we have full capability around BW, and we support all the various types of info providers available to you within an SAP system. Moving outside of core SAP ECC S4 BW, just to show we have capability around success factors to extract or write back, in this case, data around Employee Central. And then as we move away from analytics into process automation, what about the ability for us to post GL documents into an SAP system, maybe using IDOC, maybe using BAPI, maybe using OData, according to the SAP system that we're writing back into. This becomes very, very powerful within the Alteryx environment. Ian, back to you.
Thank you very much. So let's show you exactly that right capability. You can see very quickly, I'm not going to go into masses of detail. We can show you more again. Come and get in contact with us at dvwanalytics.com if you want to see more. But this is our BAPI tool. And if I just click on it, you can see that this is a standard SAP BAPI, but if you've got a bespoke function module that's RFC enabled, you can use that too. We can search for whichever BAPI we want, and it brings back the segments. These are related quite a bit to the tables in the background, but you can see, for instance, if I click on the order in, the type of information that you need to pass into your BAPI in order to make a change. In this case, it's a sales order change. What's really nice, obviously, there's many of these possibilities. Okay, they're very much akin to a T-code. So the data that you're putting in for a T-code to make a change, you'd need the same type of data in the BAPI. We also have a button that generates all the different files that you may need for each of these. You can see 2 or 3 of them in the input here. Okay, in fact, if I click on this one, I'm going to change something in here. It's not a very complex change. I'm just going to change this to let's say 222. This is the referenced purchase document within there. Just to show everything connects up, we've used the table tool to find the information about my particular sales order. I'm going to pull that data in. I'm just going to run it while I'm talking. Pull that data in and then use the inputs to add change data and then make that posted change into SAP. Okay, really is as simple as that. What is nice about our tools is that, and especially about BAPI, is that you get feedback. So if obviously this is just one update, you may want to do multiple, one would have thought, in order to get that benefit. But what's good is when you've done the posting, you get feedback of exactly what's happened. So you can see that it's been processed successfully. You can see the order document that has been processed or created or whatever it may be. So you get good feedback and you can act on that. If we whiz across into SAP, we can look at VA01, which is VA03, should I say, which is sales order view. Here's the document. And when I run in here, hopefully we see it's been changed. All good. Darren.
Thanks, Ian. Okay, we're on the home stretch. Okay, so we talked about some of our capabilities around analytics. Okay, also through that demo there is process automation. If we glue analytics and process automation together, then there's a case for data migration. So here we have usage of our software within Alteryx. It could be with Alteryx Server. It could just be with Alteryx Designer. It's really up to you as to the level at which you want to automate this. But we have the ability through our table data tools to do mass extracts of data from the SAP source system, in this case, SAP ECC, into Alteryx. Within Alteryx, we use the tools and capabilities of Alteryx to cleanse and transform, review the data. We then use the DVW capabilities to prepare the data, maybe for loading into the target SAP S/4HANA system. And again, we use, it could be IDOC, it could be BAPI, it could be OData, according to the SAP system or functionality you want to use. And then ultimately, it's all well and good as getting data out and loading it, but how do we know we're actually doing anything that's correct? So we have reconciliation tool capability. We can pull data from the ECC system and the S/4HANA system and run full reconciliations, either at the end of the migration or on the fly during the actual execution of the migration itself, to validate that what we have actually migrated, what we said we wanted to migrate. We also, through this method here and through using the Alteryx capability, provide tools through where it makes it much easier for our business users or business sponsors to sign off against that migration. Yeah, often in these processes, you see our business sponsors and business users spending weeks poring over spreadsheets trying to work out what the hell's gone on. It's much easier within Alteryx using DVW to actually perform that reconciliation. And anecdotally, we've had a customer go live recently with their S/4HANA implementation using Alteryx, and they saved 1/3 of the cost of the actual migration over traditional methods. Right, so we can do it faster, we can do it cheaper, and actually reduce the risk through the end-to-end data migration itself. Like with some of the other examples we've shown you, we provide templated workflows for you to work with and starting points. Example here is the migration of SAP pricing condition records from a source SAP ECC system across to a target SAP S/4HANA system, where all the transformation is done here in a single workflow. And you may not want that. Maybe you maybe want to actually break up the workflow into different chunks, extract, transform, load, and reconcile, report. But it just shows you the art of the possible. Back to you, Ian.
Back to me. Last one.
Last one.
Last one. So here is that workflow. Okay, as Darren mentioned, this is one of many templated workflows that we have on the Alteryx community gallery. So these are free of charge and they're great starting points, and many of our customers use them. I'm going to run this one, get it going. It's just, I'm just aware of time, then explain what it's doing. So it's just using, as you can see, our table tools. This is this embedded call, by the way, header and segment or line item table. So it's picked up some headers, it's passed those, and we're creating a filter to pull the line item data out that we're interested in. So we're being very specific about the data. The middle part of the flow does the manipulation, the cleansing of the data. It's very simple in this case, but obviously can get very complex with migrations from our ECC system. And then we're using our iDoc tool, which is not dissimilar to the BAPI tool. Obviously, it uses iDoc technology instead, but you get the idea that it's different segments in the same way. We can see the different segments if I flick through them in here, and that then posts that value, the updated value, and again we get some feedback about the iDoc that's been posted. Obviously, with iDocs it works slightly differently in that BAPIs are instant, they're a business transaction, whereas iDocs can be delayed for good reason and put through at various times. But you can see on the SAP side how successful or not that's been, and good feedback, and obviously all the power of SAP behind that. Darren, last thing.
Yeah, last bit. Okay, so hopefully you get a sense of analytics, process automation, data migration. The tool set within Alteryx is incredibly powerful, and a lot of our customers get immense value from it. We do have some sample use cases here. I assume we'll be sharing the deck with you, so I would encourage you to click on the links into the deck. The one at the top there is one of our most recent ones, and is a presentation that Johnson did at the Alteryx Spa event in Denver earlier this year. What's interesting about this is just the magnitude of time that's saved. They're pulling data from like 40 odd different SAP systems in a single Alteryx workflow. So if you have complex SAP estates and want to better combine data from many different sources, it's simply not a problem using Alteryx and DVW, along with some other interesting use cases there. I think you'll find interesting and useful. And just to end, I'd suggest, if this has caught your attention at all, please come visit the website and register for a trial. We'd love for you to experience how positive this combination of Alteryx and DVW can be if you run SAP within your environment. Okay, Martin, I think that's us.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you very much, guys. There is another question in the feed regarding Alteryx's strategy and move to the cloud. Mentioned the data prep trifactor integration, Alteryx cloud platform. How do you guys plan to follow that trend?
Yeah, we're on track. We're working quite closely with Alteryx development teams at the moment to make sure that once the cloud adoption ramps up, we'll be there, and you'll be able to use our software within those cloud environments as well.
Awesome. Another question that I had from someone who's not in the meeting. A lot of our customers leverage business objects, which is a legacy reporting tool, used quite a lot in France, and there's the whole layer of the universe. And I know you have a lot of components. There's not time to show absolutely everything, but I do think that would be of interest just to understand, how you get that semantic intelligence from a business objects universe and make that available to the Alteryx environment. Is that something you do? Is it possible? And if so, how? Because it also feeds back to the question of, metadata and the data catalog and all these different things. So yeah, how would you go about that?
Yeah, sure. So today we have one of our products is our Alteryx connector for business objects. It works with business objects universes and Webby reports. So that capability is well proven. It's probably maybe 10% of our customers are using business objects at some capacity in our product there. It's quite well proven and is a very stable piece of software. So in terms of integration, we make use of standard business objects platform APIs to connect, and obviously we built some of our own refinements around it to make sure the right data is being extracted. I think the second part of the question you were alluding to Alteryx Connect.
Yes.
Yeah, and so we do not. Okay, so Alteryx Connect, we do have a product that works with it. It works with SAP table data and BW data. We do not currently have capability for business objects. It's not currently on the roadmap for business objects. It's because we haven't had a demand for that. But we do work with Connect for table data and BW. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, we have time for one more question if one does manifest itself in the chat. Otherwise, we will slowly but surely draw the webinar to a close, although I'm very happy we had questions and we did cover quite a lot of ground. You've done this before, haven't you? Get a sense.
Just the once.
Okay. There was a pre-game before today's presentation, and there you go. You're very talented. All right. So let's maybe leave it there then. Well, thank you to you both. It was a pleasure getting to see the platform. I mean, I've engaged with you in the past before the rebranding, and it's cool to see how far you guys have come in the last 3 to 4 years. And well, thank you for taking the time to go in depth on the different parts of the product and how it interfaces with Alteryx, and sharing your expertise with us all. So cheers, guys.
Thanks, Martin. We appreciate the opportunity. Cheers now.
And will you be at Inspire in Amsterdam?
We will. We have a stand, and I'll be up on stage a couple of times rambling on about the same stuff. So come.
There we go. So if you missed anything, you can go back to Inspire and see it in person. I will be milling around as well, so I'll make sure to stop by. I assume you'll have some form of representation in the sponsor area, and we'll make sure to connect as well. And if you want to catch up with us while we're there, please do. Otherwise, you can also engage with us on LinkedIn. We'd be more than happy to connect with you and carry on any conversation that you might have. As Darren and Ian mentioned, DVWAnalytics.com if you have any direct questions regarding their platform, Actinvision.com if you have any questions regarding services in general around data initiatives and data-driven culture, and specifically around Alteryx, please do so. And of course, Alteryx.com for the APA platform and all the Alteryx products. Thank you to Nina, who set this up technically for her first solo webinar, and I think she did a great job. Cheers, Nina. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. I hope you have a good afternoon. Have a good lunch. I'm Martin Lee for Actinvision. See you soon.